Welcome to Inspirational Transformational TV show. Amy Whitney here today with my very special guest, Ginette Hunter. Ginette is a Feng Shui practitioner, and basically her entire life she's been practicing the principles of Feng Shui. In today's interview, she shares so many beautiful tips, inspirational thoughts. She's even blessed David and myself with a Qua reading. So she shares a little information about our personalities and gets to the more personal side of Feng Shui. It's a really fun, informational, and inspiring interview today. I hope you enjoy the show. Ginette Hunter, thank you so much for joining Inspirational Transformational TV show.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
For having me.
My pleasure. Now, let's launch right into the interview because we chatted a little bit off camera and there is so much to cover today. Personally, I'm so excited about what's going to happen here today. So when we were speaking off camera, you mentioned that you were sensitive to energy and intuitive about Feng Shui principles since the time you were around 5. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Oh, I would love to. It's been a long course for me. I noticed at a very young age that I would begin to move things about in my parents' home for no reason other than it didn't feel right. I was very sensitive to the colors that were in the house as well, how they affected me, particularly my bedroom. And I was only 5 years old at this point, so I was quite aware. I didn't understand it, but I did. I was most sensitive to my surroundings and people as well.
Did that sensitivity lead you directly into Feng Shui, or did you have a journey before you became a Feng Shui practitioner?
Oh, what a great question. Well, with my moving about, with my sense of space and comfort level, I was directed to become an interior decorator. Nice. And decorated for about 30 years, and discovered that although I was decorating, there was always an element that I didn't understand that was missing, and that principle was introduced to me by reading a magazine about 20 years ago, and it was a letter to the editor, and this woman had gone on about this word that I had never heard before, and so I investigated, and the word was Feng Shui. And as soon as I read her letter, I began to understand that element that was missing in my design as an interior decorator. The light came on, and it has been on ever since.
The aha moment. I do so many stories where people explain the moment when they found their passion, and it's always described like click, got it, and then you just propelled from there.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's beautiful.
Right.
Now, I don't know a lot about Feng Shui, and the stuff I do know, I think that I'm not even scratching the surface. So can you tell me a little bit about what you do as a practitioner?
Oh, I'd love to share that with you, Amy. First off is to assess a space, whether it is a home or whether it's commercial space. And usually when I'm called in, there is an imbalance within the space. So as a practitioner, I come in to assess and recognize where the imbalance of the energy is being affected. And I do so by assessing the energy through visual is one of them. Intuitive Feng Shui is what we call it. Also, I use a compass in order to become familiar with the direction, and this will give me a lot of information, as well as the landform, which is the oldest form of Feng Shui. Once that has been assessed, then I begin to really look at what the situation is in the home. And when I say that, sometimes I'll be introduced into work to assess with perhaps prosperity, And then later I find out that prosperity is really not the problem. The problem stems from another area of the life. So I do investigating to see exactly what is going on in that person's space.
That is so fascinating. Now, you mentioned that you use a compass. So I understand that you work with elements and with directions, but can you just expand a little bit on that concept?
Absolutely. The directions we use in Feng Shui assist us to look at the elements that are associated with the direction. Okay. So for example, the south is related to the element of fire. So we look at how the elements work together. There are 5 elements, and some of them will feed one another and some will destroy one another. So looking at the south, for example, which in my home is in the kitchen, it represents a few things. Fire. So if I place too much water in this space, then it's going to slow down the energy of my space. So I need to be aware of the element that would feed it. Knowing that wood would feed fire, then I would introduce some wood elements in that space.
I love it. It makes so much sense, but it's so much more complex. Like, of course, we've all seen in magazines little pictures of the zones of your home, but in order to implement it or interpret it, it takes a professional, I would say.
It's a lifetime. It's a lifetime study. Although I became certified 3 years ago, and I've been studying for 17 years, I'm learning with every involvement that I'm affiliated with.
Awesome.
It's a lifetime of study. There are no 2 spaces that are the same. So each one is a new space, and usually about 25 years before you can call yourself a master.
Oh wow!
Takes quite a long time.
Journey. So one of my questions that I wanted to ask today was, is there anything that is across the board, like what you would recommend as, I don't know, I'll say like a shotgun method to Feng Shui? Is there anything everyone must do within their home, or is it each space is individual?
Well, that is an excellent question. Again, Amy, there's answers to both of those. There are some basics to Feng Shui that everyone can apply, and they are very safe to apply, and that is to be certain that your space is not cluttered, and because that causes stagnation within a space. Also, the front entry of your door is the most important space in whether it's your home or your business, because this is where you are relying on the energy to come in to feed you. It's like the mouth. It's the mouth of the home, and so without proper introduction of nourishment, which is energy, then the home will not benefit. So we want to be certain that there's proper ventilation, great circulation, and good qi coming in the front door. Anyone can do that. So, take a look at your space. Do you have garbage cans at your front door? Do you have large shrubs that are preventing circulation from coming into your home? You want to definitely look at that. And also, another way is using a bagua, which is used in Feng Shui, which is a scale that has 9 areas, that represents 9 areas of your life.
Okay.
Anyone can use this if you can find that bagua by standing at your front door and holding this bagua. It'll give you a definition of your space. That's a very quick way of doing it. So that's quite exciting. That is something that all people can do. But I think when it comes time for placing water and the elements, I certainly recommend a Feng Shui practitioner to come into this space. Absolutely. You don't want to be causing any more harm.
Yeah, you mentioned that you had some safe actions that we could all take. So sometimes when you're trying to do this yourself, you might actually push the energies the wrong way, you're saying.
Absolutely.
Not on purpose, but yeah. That is fascinating.
You may need to nourish the area, and you might, in the long run, destroy the element if you're not sure what to place there.
Fascinating. Awesome. So obviously we'll have your website through the whole interview, but I mean, for sure, contact a professional, it sounds like. Now, there was something else that we discussed over the phone, and this is an aspect that I have never heard of, and I'm really excited to talk about it today. Now, you said that it can reveal information about ourselves and our relationships, and that if, you know, I was happy to give my husband my birth date, and you would be able to give us information about our relationship. Is that correct?
About yourselves individually and together as well.
So I've agreed
How
to...
exciting, Amy. I feel as though I've known you forever now. Well, Amy, it's called a qua. And qua is, there are 9 numbers in the qua, and each one is found according to your birth date.
Okay.
And so you are what we call a qua 8. You are a West person, a West group. So I'd like to give you a little bit of information about yourself and then explain why I do this.
Oh, this is so cool.
So Amy, your element is earth.
Okay.
You are like an earth mother. And so you are very nourished by having a fire element around you.
Okay.
So red is a very good color for you. Again, not a whole room, but just to nourish you. Your place is the northeast. This is your best direction.
Okay.
This is a place where you can be nourished, where you can gain more knowledge. Actually, the northeast does represent knowledge to begin with, and this is your favorite, this is your best direction of all. So that's really outstanding for you. It tells me you're going to be going very, very far. You're going to be learning a lot through your life. And the other thing about a qua is the metal element is really not very good for you. It is not recommended. So if you're going to wear some jewelry, then perhaps having some diamond, which is an earth element, would protect you, would be very good for you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be sure to let Dave know that.
Diamonds, David. Large, beautiful diamonds will protect David.
He's going to think I paid you to say
Yes,
that.
of course. The other thing about Amy is that I discovered that you are you're a very easygoing person. You get along with most people. You're a very sensitive person. You're very practical at the same time, which is really wonderful. And you're a nurturer. You are the earth. You do nurture. So, and also with you being a number 8, this tells me that you will have wonderful funds coming your way. We deal with period times in Feng Shui, and we're currently in period 8, and you are number 8, so you have some wonderful auspicious things going on till the year 2024.
Oh, wow.
How fabulous is
I'll
that?
retire.
We all want to be number 8, so you are number 8.
Lovely.
But that, aside from being an earth element, you really have a good disposition about yourself. You can be either a leader or a follower. You have a lot of wonderful traits about you.
Thank you.
And the reason why I like to understand my clients' elements is to better suit them in their space. So knowing this information about you, Amy, then I would be looking in on the northeast sector of your home. Perhaps this is where your office could be. It would be a place where you'd want to spend a lot of your time, actually, because you're nourished when you're in that space.
Interesting.
Having some yellow, some gold, some red in that space is very good for you in the northeast.
All right, I'll remember that for sure.
And your husband, I discovered, is a qua number 4. So he is a wood element. He's a wood. Now, normally earth and wood are not conducive with one another. But this is really interesting because David is actually a softwood.
Yes, he is.
He is a softwood, which is represented with bamboo or birch tree, which means that he is not straight and stern this way. He's more flexible, which is very nice. Which is nice. So he's not as invasive as a large tree. So with saying this, with him being a wood, then water certainly would nourish, would be his cosmic element would be water. And so he probably enjoys the colors blues and green, and those are very nourishing for him. They're very helpful for him. And a lot of interesting traits also of the soft wood. Being very flexible is one of them. Also moody, can be moody, but he's an entrepreneur. He's a natural entrepreneur. He's a very good communicator as well. He has a lot of wonderful traits about him. Nice. Wind chimes, a lot of metal also is not very good for David. Perhaps some black metal, wind chimes. His direction is the southeast. Okay. This is his nourishing space, and it would be very good for David to have some smaller plants, nothing massive, something that can go with the wind again. It would be very nourishing for him. So knowing this, then I would certainly be looking at that space for David to spend much of his time, and he'd feel very comfortable there.
Nice. That's just so beautiful.
It's very
and
interesting.
do you do that for all of your clients?
I do.
Isn't that amazing? And that
do.
helps guide you with what transformations you make in the home.
Absolutely. What is going to be nourishing you for color selection as well.
Yes.
I'm not going to be placing a lot of metal furniture in either of those spaces, knowing that it's a destructive element for both of you. So I need to be very aware of those elements. It gets very complicated that way.
You need to see a professional. So we just mentioned the word transformation, and that's one of my favorite topics. Now, do you have any favorite stories of transformation, or I don't want you to give away client details, but something
Correct.
that you'd be happy to share with us today?
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I do keep everything very confidential with my clients. Saying this, I'm reminded of a client that called me, and she's a widow. She'd been widowed for some time and felt that it was time for her to move on. So I went into her space and discovered that she really, perhaps in her mind, was ready to move on, but she still placed some obstacles. So she was uncertain. When people place obstacles in their way, it isn't that you don't want it to come your way, but it just indicates to me that you have some comprehension about it. You have some uncertainty, some fear perhaps. So in this case, she just needed some permission to move on. I had noticed that, and I have all sorts of information that is provided to give me these indications, and one of them, which her husband's photograph, was positioned in the relationship sectors of her home in both areas, without her being aware of those areas were. She just intuitively placed these pictures. So we moved them. We moved those photos on, and we sat down and discussed what sort of person she would like in her life in the future, and wrote those down, left those behind with positive thoughts. And I received a phone call. She has found someone. They have found each other. They are perfect for one another. They have all the things that they're looking for from one another, and she's very happy. So something that money can never buy, to find a soulmate later on in life. This is an older couple, so that's a wonderful story.
So touching. I love it. I love love. Now, so did I understand correctly that if things in your element are removed, they can remove blockages you have within yourself? Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing. Amazing.
Well, for instance, when we have fear, as I just mentioned earlier, we have fear of perhaps receiving. This would indicate to me that you have some problems with self-worth.
Okay.
So then perhaps I would proceed to see in the relationship or the family area if there is some support, and see where this is based from. But we definitely will place things in our way when we have fear of it. And this is always indicated. It's just the universe providing us with information to assist us.
This is sort of a strange question, but it keeps popping into my head, so I'm going to ask it.
Right.
Do you find, with your knowledge, that when you go to different spaces, people's homes, that you're almost diagnosing constantly?
I feel as though I'm going through their drawers. and it's awful. It really, truly is.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
It's very automatic. It really is automatic. It's very intuitive as well as trained. And so it isn't something that you could shut off.
Yes.
You know, it's like asking a clothes designer not to notice clothing when people walk down a runway. I mean, there it is,
yes.
You know. And it isn't about being judgmental in any form at all.
Yes.
It's about the passion of helping people.
So do you have like a set boundaries, or do you walk up to and, you know, grab someone on the street and say, "Oh, darling, that color, no," or
Not at all. I would never suggest anything without being asked.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Unless I feel that it is for their safety.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point. Now, I was wondering, we've also talked a little bit off camera about external environments, so not even just the home environment, but things like living next to a waterfall, which I do, or living on a vortex. Can you share with the audience a little information about how that affects your life?
Wow, excellent. This is how Feng Shui originated. It's called land form.
Okay.
It's a form study, the oldest study in Feng Shui. And it originated with people searching for appropriate land to settle.
Yes.
Making sure the land would nourish and protect you at the same time. So this was carried through for many centuries, but now when we look at our cities, it becomes very complex to find the ideal setting. So there are things that we need to look at that perhaps we can avoid in situations. You mentioned waterfall. Water is the largest conductor. It carries prosperity, it carries a lot of energy, and that's what Feng Shui, the word Feng Shui is wind and water. So when you are around water, it can be good if it's in the right location of your home, if it's in the right direction. It can also rob you. It can rob you from energy as well. It can bring it or take it away. And so we look at the front of your home, your front door, and it would be auspicious to have water at the front to bring it indoors. At the back of the building is not so favorable. Vortex, we have vortexes everywhere. It's such a big word. It's a real buzzword nowadays in 2011. The center of our home alone is a vortex, if we want to look at that. And we need to pay much attention to the centers of our home. And I would recommend beginning by looking at something that you can control. A vortex takes quite a bit of study and involvement to understand how to make appropriate recommendations for this. I do study geometry, and I do study the land and the grid system, and this becomes very complex. But let's just take a look at the center of our home. If you can draw the picture of your home and find the center and perhaps draw a circle and take a look at what is in that circle, you'd want to make sure that there is proper circulation. You really don't want to be fighting with the vortex. You want to be working with the vortex. Other things to look for is what we call the T-zone, which is probably the most obvious location not to be purchasing. And that is when you have a street coming right to your front door. These subdivisions and residential as well as commercial spaces tend to be not so favorable. People tend to be selling continuously because the energy is too strong. Living across the street from the cemetery, as tranquil and beautiful as a cemetery can be, is not favorable. Or a hospital, or a fire station, or church. There are a lot of areas that we look at as being sacred, that the energy that is carried there is not always so sacred. And you don't want that to be around you as well.
Oh, Ginette. I live at, my front door is at a T of another road with a waterfall at the back of our house and a cemetery 1 block away.
Wow. Well, there are some cures. There are some cures. Obviously, the land form, we're not able to adjust. So we need to make our own adjustments in accordance to. And there are certainly some cures that we can implement.
It's been so fascinating listening to you because I sense energy, of course, but I couldn't understand what was going on. We've been there 2 years, and I feel like a real whirlwind. And so what you've taught me today has been just so amazing. I'm just so grateful, so thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Now, I want to go on to some of my favorite questions that I like to ask everyone. So, what's been your biggest inspiration?
Witnessing positive results within clients is definitely on the top of my list. Also, I had the opportunity of traveling through northern and central China some years ago and witnessed how Feng Shui was adapted in their environment. And it was very inspirational to see how an art so ancient was still carried through in a civilization. And it was so simple and really beautiful, and that was very inspirational to me.
That's really lovely. They incorporate Feng Shui into pretty much everything they do, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Even the modern
acupuncture is a form of Feng Shui, and that is what Feng Shui is that I am into to assess the blockage of energy within the house.
Exactly.
To promote good circulation within the building so that whoever is in that space will feel the results. They'll feel healthier, they'll be able to breathe easier, relax in a better way, just as the body. So it is carried through acupuncture, through food as well. It's very ancient, hot and cold foods, the yin-yang, that is all Feng Shui as well.
Amazing. It's a whole lifestyle.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful. And your final words of wisdom today?
Oh, wow, so many of them. But I would say that the universe provides us with all sorts of information for us to follow and to assist us, to direct us in a better way with our space. And I think that with everything going on in the world right now, it just seems like there's a lot of chaotic behavior with everything. You know, the destruction, there's a lot of depression, and sometimes we feel that we have no control of assisting in this world. We certainly do. We can begin with our own space. When our space is healthy, then we are healthy, and people pick up on this. If we all were familiar with a healthy living environment, then this world would certainly change for the better.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Amy.
Ginette, thank you so much for your time today. It was such a pleasure to spend some of the morning with you. By the time I left your house, I felt like we were old friends. You have the warmest nature, an open heart, a really beautiful home, and anybody who advises my husband to buy diamonds, well, you're okay by me. Many blessings and much love, Ginette.